With the advent of 3D printing, people were able to create all sorts of gizmos, tools, toys, and whatever else their printers can make. You could print a statue of your favorite character or make something more practical, such as creating a specific part to replace a failed one in an appliance. With the advent of all-button controllers, it became possible to have a controller primarily for fighting games that didn't need a huge amount of weight or even a lot of space to give you a great interface experience. But what if you combine these two ideas? If you're the Italian gaming company Save Your Games, you get this, the SYGBox. It's a 3D printed, all-button controller using sound OBSF buttons and a Brook PS4 Plus board. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking it down to see if it might be a controller you want to pick up or pass on. In this review, I'll cover the dimensions and weight, give my first impressions, show you the internals, go in for some lab time, tell you what I liked and didn't like, and close things out with my final thoughts for who might want this and who will want to pass. Let's get started. Let's take a quick look at the dimensions to see if this is going to be the correct sized fight stick for you. So, measuring across, we're looking at about 15 inches, a little bit and change, or about 385 millimeters, since this is a European product. And this way we're measuring about 7.5 inches, or about 190 millimeters, including the front-facing buttons. And as far as height goes, we're looking at about 2 inches, including the top buttons, or about 50 or so millimeters. Let's take a quick look at the weight of the SYGBox. Coming out to 2 pounds and 1.5 ounces. When I found out the SYGBox was headed my way, I went to do my research and looked over the Save Your Games website. While it is in Italian, there is an option for English, which is very helpful for a non-Italian speaker. And if you have Google Translate built into your web browser, like in Chrome, then that's also not really an issue. I did notice that there's this really neat visual configuration tool for this guy, and it lets you change the case color, the buttons, the option buttons, what Brookboard you'll be using, and even what USB cable you want. So that's really cool. And a lot of times, I think in the fighting game community, we have a lot of products, we get a few pictures, but we can't really see how it integrates into what we've got. So very nice. Now that it's in my hands though, the first things I want to comment on involve the 3D printed nature. And the first thing is going to be the logo. Now this is not a sticker. I am trying to scratch this off and it's not happening. So, because this is integrated directly into the case. This is not just stuck on top or dyed or anything, I don't think. It's directly printed inside. So that is a really cool feature. And the website says you can get your name printed in the color you want. I don't know if they'll do a logo file. That's something that Save Your Games may be able to put in the comments section and enlighten us. So there's that. Also, the weight of it. So we already saw in the dimensions and weight section, this is about 2 pounds. So it has a little bit of weight, but it's not overbearing or anything like that. Again, it is 3D printed. I expected it to be maybe even lighter, but no, it feels good, and I think it's a good size. Another thing about the 3D print is if you are one of those people that has acrylic or dreads acrylic because it just collects fingerprint smears, then you're in luck because this has a nice texture. I think it's a matte that you're not going to get fingerprints on. I think you'll get more fingerprints on your buttons than you will this. So that's kind of a bonus feature. Also, the form factor. I think this is not like a subcompact, but it is smaller than the official Hitbox. It's compact enough to fit in most backpacks, which is nice. And of course, it's an all button, so you're not going to worry about tearing off a lever or doing something like that. And it has a nice, set of curves to it, so it stands out a little bit. That's nice. I am noticing, you may not be able to see this on the YouTube video, but you can definitely see the 3D print layers a little bit, so maybe this just needs a little bit of sanding. But you're always going to kind of see that 3D print streak, so, you just kind of accept it. So looking around, we have some option buttons up here. I'll find out what those are, and now according to the configurator there is a lit option button, and we'll see if that works. This model comes with the Brook PS4 Plus audio, so you can see they included that. And there are other options like the UFB, etc. So if that's what you want to go for, they can definitely put that together for you. Looking at the back, this came with the Brook logo sticker on there, so there's that. There is this pad here, presumably for lap play, and there's 4 3D printed standoffs. Yeah, they're just screwed in, and there's a panel here for access, and we'll be looking at the internals momentarily. That said, we're looking pretty good. I have high hopes for this. We'll go ahead and open it up and see what's inside. Let's take a look at the internals of the SYGBox. And to do that, all we need to do is flip it over and go ahead and remove these 5 bolts here. There we go. Now, if you're working on this to modify or whatever, I do always recommend you have a dish or something to retain those screws so you don't wipe them away and lose them forever. Anyway, now we just have to get this panel off, and then it should be pretty easy. Yep, just falls right off, and there we go. All right, let's take a look at the goodies inside. So yep, we've got that Brook PS4 Plus board right here, and it's running out these connections to the audio and USB breakout. We're not using the 20-pin connector here. We're actually using the terminals right there instead, which makes sense to keep the height down, so that's good. Now all of the buttons here, except for the front-facing ones, have their terminals bent, it looks like. I'm wondering if right angle quick disconnects would work here, or if it would still be too high. But in any case, that's fine as long as the connections are solid, and they are, so that's fine. Of course, these are all Sanwa buttons, as mentioned, even the front option buttons. This one, though, has a little lighting module, like as kind of expected, because this is our special lit button. I'm not sure who that's made by. I'm not seeing any specific maker information on that little PCB there that I can read anyway. But that's interesting. I might have to look into that. Other than that, a Brook sticker, and that's pretty much it. The nice thing is it is secured 4 points here, so that's great. And if you wanted to replace this with UFB, you could do that for the extra Xbox compatibility. The only thing is we don't have a lot of room to work with here for options, but given that there's not really any other space for it, there's not really much use to these, other than this connecting to, say, an up 5. So that might involve having to remove it and then plug it in there. And then you should have plenty of terminals here to get that connected. So yeah, that is using one of the, I think this is using one of the 5-volt connections. And then it just daisy chains the ground, which is fine. So all in all, I mean, it's nothing out of the ordinary. You're obviously not having braided cables here because there's nothing to look at. That's kind of a posh upgrade, especially when you have a clear window. Otherwise, yeah, and it's a good setup. So I'm looking forward to getting this in the lab and play testing it. We're in the lab now and just going to do some basic acceptance testing with GamepadTester.com. So let's start with directionals, left, right, down, up, and these are showing on the point of view hat, kind of as expected. So if I do some quick fireballs, half circle, dragon, kind of mashing that out. So, there we go. Testing the SOCD. Yep. Holding down and then holding these two together gives you nothing. Kind of expected. So let's test some buttons. Alright. All those are lighting up nicely, kind of as expected. So if we use our option buttons, okay, there's that. This lights up. You can see it in B10 there, but it does not correspond to anything. So I wonder if these only work on PlayStation? Not sure. But we don't have L3, R3. Okay, this is looking fine. Let's take a look what it looks like in Steam. So what does it show up as? Yep, it shows up as an Xbox One controller, but it knows that it's a Brook PS4 Plus audio. That's expected. It's in the Steam database, so that's good stuff. All right, let's go to in-game footage. Naturally, the best way to test a fighting game controller is with a Tetris-based game, like Tricky Towers. So in Tricky Towers, the object is not necessary to build lines, but in this mode, we just want to make a big stack without having blocks fall over, which easier said than done. No, 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 don't go! Ah! Uh-oh. That may not be good. Don't fall. Oh no, oh no, no, don't, no, no! Bye. Anyway. Me being bad at Tetris is not a fault of the hitbox, but it does well enough. I mean, the nice thing is being able to tap once for a column move, so it actually works pretty well for us. Alright, something a little bit more serious, Killer Instinct 2013. So let's just test some movement. Dashing, moving. Alright, fireballs seem to be coming out pretty well. Dragon Punch action, feels good. There. There we go. Getting lazy there. Not bad. Alright, yeah, this is feeling pretty good. As long as I'm pressing straight down, we're okay. But this guy, if I'm push any other way, it's going to slide. I mean, generally you're applying force downward in the hitbox, so that's not too much of an issue. But I can see if you're on a table and you just actually swipe it, and this is foam, so it's not moving as much, but if it's, if I was on just a bare table, wood or what have you, I think it would slide right off and bad things might happen. So let's go ahead and get out a charge character. Do some brief charge tests. Otherwise, I'm feeling good. So this should have. Oops, helps if I use the right button. Yep. I'm not holding it long enough. Okay, it's something. Alright. Charging feels good. I'm not really missing any, unless it's my own screw-ups. Let's try the other way, just to be sure. So in case you're wondering why I keep holding down and then hit up, on most all-button hitbox style controllers, you can hold down, and when you hit up, that'll override the down. But once you release up, you get right back into charge. So it's something that's not possible on the lever. It gives you just maybe a few more milliseconds of advantage, but you still have to get the charge there, which I wasn't quite doing. Mistouching. That's my fault. Okay. Alright. So yeah, I think overall I'm feeling pretty good about the lab here. I mean, obviously it's just training mode, but you know, there you go. And I think KI makes you look good, so it's nice. Alright, let's go back for some pros, cons, conclusions, and that sort of thing. So what did I like and not like so much about the SYGBox? I'm going to be upfront. When I was told, hey, you're going to get to review a 3D printed hitbox, I was a little bit, okay, a lot skeptical. And that's probably because this is coming from a person that mains the solid steel 18-inch AFS boxes that feels like 30 pounds on a good day, and to come to something that is much smaller and much lighter, it was kind of definitely a shock almost. So it is not a bad thing. This little guy has grown on me, and for what it's worth, I took it on a Fight K tournament, won my first 2 rounds with it, decided, you know what, I'm going to switch to my good old main box, and then I lost. So take that how you will. Anyhow, and kind of that tournament performance, I feel, was really aided by the hardware inside. First of all, the Brook board. Now, I feel like Brook boards are definitely becoming the standard, or they really have been the standard, for enthusiast builds and makers. So AS Indo uses them, KK uses them. I'm sure there's many others that just Brook is the default de facto. And for good reason. You've got, good compatibility, you've got reliability and performance all in there. Now, are there faster boards? Sure. Are there ones that are as compatible? I don't think so. Most of the really fast ones that say, oh, sub, picosecond whatever times, are only compatible with, say, PC or PS3, Switch, etc. You don't get PS4 compatibility, for what it's worth. Anyhow, so if you are going to be playing on the PS4, that's what this guy comes stock with. Now, you can change to the Universal Fighting Board. I always want to call it the Ultimate, but there you go. And you can also have the option for the Up 5 for PlayStation 5 compatibility. Yes, it does cost extra, of course, but it is there. Now, does the SYGBox have compatibility with, say, the Wireless Fight Board? I'm not sure. It should be the same mounting, but I'm not sure there's the space for stuff. I have not used the WFB myself, so I can't say. It should work with the Xbox Fighting Board and probably the Zero Pi, but those are not options on the configurator. The other half of the performance equation, and just how responsive and pleasant it is to use, is delivered by, I feel, these Sanwa OBSF buttons. They're lightweight, they're light touch, they're just responsive and, easy and nice to use. Now, I know there are some of you that don't like Sanwas. You can replace these with other snap-in options. I'm really hesitant to recommend screw-ins unless you have a very thin ring, because especially like around here, it can be a bit of a tight fit from the looks of it. So there's that. But if you are familiar with and do like Sanwa buttons, here you go. It's already set to go, and you're off to the races. Another thing I liked, and this has to do with the 3D print, is this matte texture. It's just nice to the touch. It feels silly for me to say that, but it does have a real-world benefit in that it's not going to retain fingerprints. Now, you may need to clean it now and again, just from getting a little bit of dirt here and there, but it's plastic, so just a little bit of a damp rag probably do the job for you. So speaking of the 3D printing, the durability and weight feel pretty good. This is something you could take around to events or friend's house really easily. It fits relatively well in most any backpack. Given you don't have a lever, of course, you don't have to worry about protecting that or purchasing like a link to be able to remove it. And it feels pretty durable. I feel like I could drop this off the table more than a few times and have it survive. If I try and press really hard, there is a little bit of flexing, but it's not something you're going to do normally. So when I'm playing, I don't get any of that flexing, and I never found that it got in the way or affected my gameplay. So feeling pretty good there. One thing I really liked about this guy was the easy to access internals. Now I have the cover already off. Kind of talked about this before, I think, where a lot of sticks, if you have the cover, there's components and such that are on one side and you have to wire it to the other. Like this is the case with the 8-bit DOE arcade stick, where you open this up and there's buttons on one side, control board on the other, and you have to be really careful not to pull this off really too far or do anything like that. With this, it's all in here and it's relatively easy to get to. Last thing I want to talk about on pros is the online configurator. This is a great tool, and I know there are some other places that have similar, but being able to visually see how your colors are interacting between the case, your movement buttons, your action buttons, your option buttons, and your lit button, and can't quite see it, but your USB cable, is really, really great. And it's something that a lot of arcade parts, you mostly just, here's a picture, here's how it is by itself. I don't know how it's going to look with a black case versus a blue one or yellow one or whatever. But with this configurator, boom, you tell it, I want blue buttons, so you can see exactly how blue buttons are going to look with either a yellow case or a blue case or a black case. And that's a great way to try before you buy, in a sense. Great job for that configurator, guys. It's an amazing feature. All right, it's time to gripe, and I'm, want to make sure you guys get a complete picture of the SYGBox, and that includes kind of its flaws. First of all, when it arrived, I had these two buttons reversed and these two buttons reversed. I don't know if that was because the PS4 board is different. I haven't worked with it before. I've really only worked with the UFB and the retro board. But it's a really easy fix. You just open it up, disconnect the signal leads to either button, and then, connect them the right way. Once I did that, you're all set and it's not going to happen again. So I can't tell if that was just a weirdness with the PS4 board or if it's a QA issue. Now I have talked about, gushed about practically, this matte surface, how much I really like it, resists fingerprints, feels nice on your hands. There's just a drawback with how this is done, in that if you are someone that likes to have custom artwork done beyond your name here, maybe the logo, that's all you're getting. I don't know if vinyl would work here because of the texture, and it's just kind of hard to, and especially given the side curves here, getting that artwork done would be difficult. And maybe it's possible to do some very light engraving. I've seen other 3D printed sticks do that, so that might be an option, but I can't, recommend it given I haven't tried it. So. Now, I previously gushed about the configurator that lets you see how, your case color is going to interact with your button colors and so on. There is one little gotcha, and when you put that into English mode and you go into the configurator, it still reverts back to Italian, which is not super hard to work around. Just put the website in Chrome or something that has a translate feature, and there you go. It's mostly going to make sense in case you really need English. But most of the time, it's going to make sense as soon as you click on something anyway. So it's not super hard to read, for me anyway. If you need the translation, there are options out there that'll automatically do it for you. Now, another thing with the website and the ordering process, I tried to do it up until the moment of payment just to test it out, was I did not see the option to provide the name you want to use to embed into the 3D print or what color. So I'm guessing that's a post-sale thing. SYG, if you want to chime in and let us know how that works, please do so in the comments. We appreciate it. So something else with the internals. Now, having these bent this way is fine. They're not going to, spontaneously fall off or anything. A tiny, tiny nitpick is maybe try using right angle quick disconnects. I just feel like that would be slightly better. And I do like, actually, how the grounds use a different color quick disconnect than the regulars. So that's a nice touch. One thing, though, is I'd like to see the stand for the bookboard, if it could be moved just a hair over to give access to like the up 5. Otherwise, you kind of have to take it out, and that might be a daunting task if someone decides to upgrade it later. It just doesn't feel as comfortable. Me, I'll just rip it out and figure it out, but someone that's not as confident might feel a little intimidated trying to get the connector into here and to make it work. Not really a pro or a con per se, but a future design change that you might want to consider. If you've ever seen Logitech mice that have the tunable weights, you can add little micro weights to increase the weight of the mouse. So if you like throwing it around a little bit more, then there you go. You can put that extra weight in there, however many grams. I think if we had little weight pockets, on the sides here and maybe in the back, just little cutouts where you could put in little tire weights, and those can go up to 1 ounce. You can just add a little bit more weight and a little bit more heft to this. And again, like I've said, most of the time you are pressing down, so is that going to matter? Not as much, but there might be some of you that find themselves pushing forward, pushing back, or you just want that extra bit of weight. So again, it's kind of a suggestion more than anything. Now, something else with the back here, and namely with this back in place. These guys are pretty rough, and as you kind of saw in the lab, they slide. I'd love to see, if we could, get something like capsule shaped, for both of these, that's rubber, so it will not slide at all. Get rid of this foam. It's not really precisely cut. And that way you have something that's not going to slide at all. And again, on a hitbox, you're mostly applying force downward. You're not applying force this way, that way, because you're not using a lever. But I just feel like these guys, they really do slide everywhere. And if you just bump it off a table because these don't have any grip, and maybe it dents something or whatever, it's just going to have a bad time. So finding some solution there, I feel like, the rubber like that would be the best, and also, be comfortable for lap play. And I feel like if I actually played with these on bare skin. After a while, I might even get a welt. I don't really think so because the weight is not there, but you know, just these guys, they're not like super hard edge. Like I'm not feeling it cut into my skin, but it, you know, it's noticeable. The other things I want to mention are not really about the SYGBox itself really directly, and that'll make sense here in a second. First is the value proposition, and the price listed for the base model, you know, with the PS4 Plus board is 239 euros. Now, at the time of this review, that is coming out to 237 US dollars. At this price range, you have more options that you cost even less. Like the SYGBox Micro is very well known, $215 at the time of this review. The official Hitbox, $249. But again, these are US options primarily, so I tried looking for European options and there's just not a lot out there. So hey, corner the market while you got it, guys. I think some options we can have to reduce the price is maybe offer an option with a GP2040 or Brook Zero Pi. Those cost a little bit less. Or just having a enclosure only option so you can provide your own buttons. Now finally, my last gripe, it's going to seem silly, I know, but I'm going to say it. We have a epidemic of all button controllers that are named something box. And Hitbox started the trend, there's Fightbox, there's now the SYGBox, and the SYGBox, and I'm sure there's others I'm just forgetting right now. But it's got to stop. We need a new name for this guy and other boxes so that we just don't fall into box. I'm not sure entirely what that would be. I'm thinking filament, ABS, PLA, something involving that, and I don't know, fireballs, punches. I'm just want to start the process. I want to start the conversation. If you guys have ideas for this, you know, comment below. Maybe SYG can use it in a future project. I'm just saying. Again, it's silly, but just getting something that has a little bit more memorability than just box. You know, just think about it. The first primary customer for the SYGBox, I think, is going to be those in Europe, especially Italy, where there's maybe not a lot of options for getting in a Hitbox style controller, you know, that next day. I went around, tried to search various places, and there's not a lot of native options in Europe from what I saw. Small Cab doesn't really have much. That's pre-made. There's no pre-made stuff over at Arcade World UK. Blunderbuss is not in operation anymore, rest in peace. So having a pre-made thing you can just buy and go, plug and play, that's a market advantage over there. Our second use case, I believe, is going to be for those who want a Hitbox that's a little bit smaller than the official size Hitbox, but is not a subcompact, like a SYGBox Micro or those you find on Etsy. So this guy, good form factor. You can rest your hands on it, feels good, without it being super small or super huge. So a little bit smaller, but not by much. Third use case, and again, this kind of ties into the first one, is that you want something that's plug and play right out of the box. And this comes pre-installed with all the buttons. You don't have to rewire it, hopefully. You don't have to purchase anything else, just this is the complete package. You are set to go, go play games. If you're a builder or tinkerer, obviously, not really as much for you, but perhaps the case will become available as a standalone product later down the line. Fourth, and I feel like, this might be a small one, but you want a case that is, a different color than a lot of others you can get. So maybe you want something in green or yellow, like so. You want something in blue, you want something in red, you want, not the standard white and black. Well, SYG has you covered, so there you go. Finally, in the, who is this for? I think it's for anyone that's really just done, tired, sick of it, cleaning that acrylic, right? All those fingerprint smudges, well, this doesn't pick them up. You might see, maybe a little on some buttons, but you should be cleaning those anyway a little bit. I feel that's so minor. And compared to everywhere else, this just does not pick up those fingerprints. Let's talk about some of the who is this not really for cases. And the first is if you're looking for a super premium controller. And, with some just of the edge printing and, some of the other stuff, like if you want a really artworky kind of thing, if that's a word, you want your top panel to have your favorite anime girl. On the bottom you want it, on the sides you want it, and the front back you want it. That's not going to happen here. It's just not. So if you're looking for, that it's got polished gold on it and stuff like that, it's not going to really do it. You don't have the braided internal cables, for example. So if you're looking for that super premium, honestly, you're going to be paying up to $400 for that. If you're looking at, that range, you're looking at the Victrix Pro, you're looking at the Conva Dragon, and, those have features like that. Number two, who this is not for, is if you want something heavier. Now you could, and I mentioned this earlier, do those tire weights if we had those kind of integrated into the bottom of the packaging, so you could slot them in and have them stick. But I think even without, you can use adhesive tire weights, stick them inside there, gain a little bit of weight, maybe about a pound if you can fit enough in there, But otherwise, if you're looking for something that's just heavier, meatier, this is not going to be it. So number three on who this is probably not for is I think most people in the US outside of Europe are not going to find it very competitive, especially compared to some of the other options you have at the similar or just a little bit above or even a little bit below on the price point. So you've got the SnackBox Micro, very popular. The official Hitbox costs just a little bit more, and I'm sure there's other options. So outside of Europe, for a pre-built Hitbox, it's kind of touchy as to price. And the final case for who this is not for is going to be, I think, the DIY person. You want something that you can go above and beyond customizing, like I've talked about, say artwork, if you want on front, back, side, top, bottom, whatever. Can't really do that with this. I mean, it's possible you could do a vinyl wrap, but I don't feel like most people are going to want to take the effort to do that. If you wanted to add the BitBang Gaming player LED thing, for example, there's not really a place where it can go. At least not comfortably. It's possible you could drill into the front here, maybe, but it wouldn't be really practical, I don't feel. So if you are looking for something that's really DIY friendly, it's this is obviously pretty pre-made. You're selecting the button, just colors. They come with buttons. You've got a control board. It comes pre-installed. You're set to go. So really, there's not a lot of work for you to do here. Thanks so much for watching this review. If you found it useful, please hit that like button, and if you're interested in more content from the Arcade Stick, hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it, and look forward to more reviews coming soon in the future. This has been Zevros for the Arcade Stick, signing out.
The Arcade Stick.